recently reports have came out saying that Israel and the IDF actually knew what was going to happen on October 7th, yet they didn't know about it. I mean, it's a really strange phenomenon, saying that one of the biggest, well, not the biggest, but one of the best armies in the world knew that this terrorist attack was going to happen, yet they didn't do anything about it. I mean, the other day I was in Israel and I sat down with a former Israeli general, Amos Gilad, who was very high up in the Israeli army, or in the IDF really, and he was part of the Ministry of Defense. He was in charge of policy there, and he told me that Israel made like a really big mistake about not stopping October the 7th. So, I mean, it's just crazy to think about all of this. So I guess the question really is, Destiny, I mean, I'll ask you this one and then we'll go to Ivan. What's your thoughts on this? Do you think it was genuinely a huge mistake, or do you think they let it happen for any particular reason? Because that's a lot of people have been theorizing that.
So one of the things about intelligence is there's a lot you don't see. And I don't like to make strong declarations about whether or not something could have been stopped unless the intelligence prior to the attack indicated, one, with great precision what was going to happen, and then two, with a high degree of confidence. The issue with that, what I've seen, I know there was I think it was a CNN article I read about these attacks. They called it, I think they called it the Operation Jericho Wall or something, right? I think is what the Israeli side had codenamed these plans. My understanding that one, they didn't think it was possible for them to do what they claimed they were going to do. And then two, even when they were discussing these plans, I don't believe a particular date was attached. So it was essentially that like, yeah, here's a way that these fortifications could be overran. Here's a way that they could do the attack if they wanted to. But it's hard to say, like, unless there was a particular date attached and unless they really truly believe they had the means to do it. I haven't seen compelling evidence to show that Israel was like, yeah, we know this attack is coming, but we're just going to let it happen so that we can foment, hatred and adversarialness to the, Gaza Palestinians, we can go in and invade. Not to say that it's impossible, but I think there needs to be a pretty high threshold of evidence that has to be presented for us to believe that, the IDF or Netanyahu or the military apparatus in Israel knew that attack was coming, but they just decided, we're going to let some thousands of civilians die so that we can go in and invade because that would be awesome. That's a really insane proposition. I say insane. It's a grand proposition to let so many of your own countrymen die, and it demands a high level of evidence, I would say, to prove that.
So, I mean, I was in Israel the other day, and it seems actually quite accepted that in there that Bibi Netanyahu made a big mistake that you know about, and he didn't really stop it. It was his failures that caused this. And like I said, when I was talking to the former Israeli general, he said that the IDF made a big mistake, that it seemed like they did know something about it. Maybe, like you said, maybe they didn't know the exact dates, or maybe they didn't know everything about it. But it seems like they did push it away, and maybe they were a bit too arrogant.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been in so many conspiratorial places on the internet. I might have misunderstood your question. Insofar as did Israel make a mistake, that seems to be obvious. Yeah. Yes, for sure. And if they had details of a plan like this, then that would also obviously be, even without a particular date attached, they messed up and not being ready for something like this. I'm sorry. The way that I usually hear this claim presented is that Netanyahu intentionally ignored any of these things because he wanted the attack to happen so that it would give an excuse to launch military actions.
He didn't misrepresent my question. I was asking you, do you think that was a possibility?
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. It would be foolish to say that everything isn't a possibility, but to believe the grander conspiracy, that it was a conspiracy, that it was allowed to happen, that would require a high bar of evidence. In terms of was there a mistake, I mean, that seems obvious. It would be hard to believe there wasn't some sort of mistake made if this attack was able to happen as well as it had happened against the Israeli people. Yeah.